Rouse's is proud of the creativity and the unparalleled entertainment in New Orleans, and honored to highlight it with their sponsorship of Steppin Out on WYES.
I'm Peggy Scott Laborde, and welcome to Steppin Out, with updates from the local restaurant, arts, and entertainment scenes. Joining me, Poppy Tucker, host of Louisiana Eats on WWNO Radio. Hey, Miss Poppy.
Hello, Peg.
In your kitchen. Love it. Mezzo-soprano Emily Treigle, winner of the recent Met Opera Regional auditions and approaching the semifinals. Welcome to our show. Great to see you,
Hi,
dear.
thank you.
Hey. And Alan Smason of theatercriticism.com and the Crescent City Jewish News.
Hey, Peg.
Hello. Poppy, a revered French Quarter restaurant, continues a newer tradition.
Well, traditions abound at Brennan's, where I wanted to start off by congratulating Ralph and his partner, Terry White, who are celebrating 75 years altogether at Brennan's. Of course, they have only been involved for the last less than 10, but anyway, congratulations to them. Look at that beautiful pink building. What would we do without it? And everybody can join in the celebration Mother's Day weekend, because since 2015, there has been that fun little turtle parade. And so this year, instead of parading in the streets, the turtles are going to be on parade all day in the courtyard from 9 a.m. And of course, there is Haley, the chef, and Ralph holding up the signs of the names of the turtles, the mothers and the others. That's the mother sauces those turtles are named for. So this celebration is going to take place on Saturday, May 8th. It's going to begin, there'll be a blessing by Monsignor McNulty at 10 a.m. and then Judge Lauren Lemon's going to come by to pardon the turtles formally, as she always does. This has been going on since 2015. There's going to be a green carpet greeting everyone, and the brunch that day is going to be extraordinarily special. There's going to even be a chocolate turtle dessert. And if you can't get in or don't have the time for brunch, make that reservation as quick as you can. Happy hour will be happening in the courtyard from 2 until 6 with those turtles on parade, and lots of bubblies and yummy signature cocktails. Head to Brennan's and celebrate.
All right, thank you so much. And moving over to Emily, who is actually coming to us from Houston because she's attending Rice. And you are a graduate of NOCA. Let's talk about you, dear. Graduate of NOCA. Your mom teaches at NOCA, okay? And your mom, Phyllis, is also a very renowned, incredible opera singer as well, but she's been focusing on teaching. But tell us about how exciting this must have been to be in the regionals recently.
Oh, it's been absolutely crazy. So I started singing when I was 14, 15 years old with my mom as my teacher, which you can imagine was a little bit weird, but we definitely got the hang of it. And then I came to Rice for my undergrad, and I didn't really ever expect for things to be going so well. And I'm just so grateful for the way that things have been happening recently. I just kind of applied for a national council competition on a whim, just hoping that I would get some feedback and some recognition. And first I did the New Orleans district, and I progressed on to the Gulf Coast regions. And now I'm a semifinalist. I think it went from over 1,000 initial applicants to now I think like 20, 22 singers. So it's absolutely crazy. I'm so grateful. Generally, I would be going to New York about now, but since COVID, it's all virtual. But I'm still so excited.
Yes, we should point out these the dates and times. Okay, the 9th is the next, of course, round. It starts at 10 a.m. But what time? That's all of the entries. But what time do you think you'll be performing?
I'll be performing a little bit closer to noon, so maybe like 11:55 is the plan, if things go according to schedule.
Okay, and we should point out concerts.kiswe.com at Met Opera, or you can go to metopera.org, for more information about that. We are very excited because we actually have a clip from one of your performances, and so we'll come back and talk some more. But first, here is Emily singing an excerpt from Simple Child, an aria based on the novel The Grapes of Wrath. We would be remiss if we did not mention Amici, because this is a group, it's a volunteer group that organizes the regionals out of New Orleans, but it's multi-state. And if you want to join or learn more, you can go to their Facebook page at Amici, M-O-N-C, and you can get to it right there. Also, the Met Opera site, metopera.org, in terms of more information about the Met, of course. But it's wonderful because this group comes together and helps raise funds to help you. Isn't that correct? To help you go on your way. And I know that in some instances, this is from the past, but, especially if you're going to New York, airfare, a nice dress, things, there are expenses in doing this kind of thing. But the group of Amici has just been so helpful over the years, and our hat is off to them. Emily, let me ask you, where, the Simple Child clip, where was that from? It's so beautiful. I mean, where was it done?
Yes, so that was from this past summer at Wolf Trap Opera in Virginia. I was fortunate enough to be a studio artist there this past summer, and I'm actually going back to Wolf Trap this year, so I'm so excited to do that.
You have plans, girl, and you're also going to be working with the Houston Opera, too, the Houston Grand Opera.
Yes.
Huh? Wow.
Yes, that is just the joy of my life. It's been my dream to be a part of the Houston Opera Studio, and it has somehow come true. So I'm so excited to join their studio program in the fall.
Wonderful. Well, when we come back to you in just a few minutes, we want to talk about your heritage, shall we say. The name Treigle is very familiar in New Orleans. See you in just a bit. And now over to Alan with some great, exciting news.
Brava, brava. Wonderful, wonderful performance. I can't wait for more. Well, speaking of queens, not necessarily of opera, but the queen jewel of the New Orleans theater is the Sanger Theater, as you can see behind me. They're coming back, people, and it's going to be up to all of us to get vaccinated and welcome back Broadway in New Orleans, with 7 dates announced for subscribers for the series. 5 of the 7 are brand new musicals direct from Broadway to New Orleans, including the reigning musical Hadestown by Anais Mitchell. But first, for those of you who remember the Sidney Pollack film starring Dustin Hoffman and Jessica Lange, this is not going to be your same Tootsie. This is not about a soap opera, but it's actually about a Broadway production. And of course, Dorothy Michaels is in that mix. There is Michael Dorsey, before he becomes Tootsie, Dorothy Michaels. And again, many of the leading actor awards were up, for Tonys, but Santino Fontana there on the left won it. A very funny role for an actor. Several of the supporting actors you can see there. The guy who played the Bill Murray part, and Julia Stiles, who played zany next-door neighbor, if you will, a friend, ex-girlfriend. She was in it for the mix for nominations. Robert Horn won for Best Book of a Musical. I have to tell you, this is highly recommended. Okay. It's also going to be time after Tootsie for the Sanger to get out their scratching posts and hopefully a truckload of kitty litter, because Andrew Lloyd Webber's Cats is returning, and it's just going to be right before Christmas, so you'll be able to see that, based, of course, on T.S. Eliot's Old Possum's Book of Practical Cats. And the show includes the 3 M's, of course, Mr. Mistopheles, McCavity, and Memory. Then right after Christmas, and of course into the new year, as I mentioned before that, Hadestown with the classical New Orleans music. There's Patrick Page. It's going to be a wonderful arrival here on Canal Street with, again, the most winning production of 2019, the last time the Tonys were held. And this is the story of the relationships between, who you see there, the Greek god Hades and Persephone, and Orpheus and Eurydice. It's updated, however, with fantastic choreography and haunting melodies. It is a must-see. The remainder of the Sanger series are all new, with the exception of Hamilton. Again, you need to check those out as well. Disney's Frozen will be on the boards right before Mardi Gras. Then in April, the fantastic Stephen Flaherty and Lynn Aaron's musical based on the animated classic Anastasia will come to New Orleans, with the classics Journey to the Past and Once Upon a December. And finally, Tina Fey's Mean Girls will be holding court for 5 days only in May. That score is written, by the way, by Tina's husband, Jeff Richmond. It's very good, and the story retells the movie of how the Plastics get their comeuppance. And finally, it'll be 3 weeks of being in the room where it happens, people, because that's Hamilton. Its return in June and July. And by the way, it's going to be here over the July 4th weekend, so we get to celebrate Independence Day in a meaningful way with the cast of Hamilton. Again, what a series. It's going to be fantastic. So I hope that people will be checking that out. There's just so much to see, et cetera, what's going on with Broadway in New Orleans. Now, coming up at UNO, the UNO Amphitheater is reopening, Peggy. This is an outdoor experience. Yeah. Sarah Rule doing a piece called Eurydice, not the one compared with Hadestown, but it's the same character. It's all about loss, and I think that people will really want to see it. It's starting up, well, it's really on now, the boards, and starting up, continuing through next weekend. You can get your tickets through eventbrite.com. I think they're $10 each.
All right, thank you so much. And back to Poppy with news about a beloved West Bank restaurant.
Well, you know, so many of us would be normally getting ready for Jazz Fest right now, and we're going to have to wait till October. But Chef Tom Hinyap at the Sunray Grill doesn't want us to have to wait. Now, there he is at the original Sunray Grill on Belt Chase Highway, which is now in its 25th year next to Ochsner West Bank. And this is the second year that Tom has put together this Jazz Fest celebration. And we're celebrating on Sunday, May the 2nd, with a 6-course wine-paired lunch. Now, that shot right there, the crawfish Monica, it'll be served on a lovely plate. That's a picture when last year's Jazz Fest had to be to go. But this year, you can dine in. It's going to be divine. You'll begin with a spiked rose mint tea. There'll be a cochon de lait pour boy. That's a Creole stuffed soft shell crab. Pecan redfish meuniere. Look how beautiful. And of course, bread pudding for dessert. The tickets are $70. The wine pairings are astounding. It's almost sold out. So call and get a reservation now, because this is a great way to console yourself and wait for all that yummy food until October.
I know, it's hard to wait. It really is. Thank you so much. And back to Emily. And Emily, you know, as we alluded to earlier, of course, you're the granddaughter of Norman Treigle, the very beloved and internationally known bass baritone. Talk about a deep voice. And of course, he was known for the more sinister characters such as Mephistopheles, and just played all over the world, but especially New York, you know, for many, many years. And then your mom, Phyllis, of course, his daughter was, you know, as we said, is also a fine opera singer as well. But Alan, you said you had a story concerning Norman Treigle you wanted to share.
Well, for many years, Mephistopheles was playing at the New York City Opera, not the Met. And for many years, it played for 20 years. I mean, that's a long run for any opera, much less, production. And it was Norman Treigle who kept hitting up, and I believe it was Sir Rudolph Bing, who was then head of the Metropolitan Opera. He says, why don't you have me come over to the Met and do Mephistopheles? And of course, the response was, why should we? There's a perfectly wonderful production over at New York City Opera.
Oh, well, yeah, and thank you, Alan. And you saw the cover of that book, Brian Morgan, who, of course, has been on Steppin Out in the past, spent years very, very carefully researching a book on Norman Treigle called Strange Child of Chaos, and that wonderful cover as well. But, Emily, I mean, to be stepping into those footsteps, weren't you initially thinking of a rock music career?
Something like that. So yeah, I think it's definitely different to grow up sort of surrounded by that. I like to tell the story that I grew up desperately trying to watch television while my mom wailed high C's in the living room. So it was definitely something that I was just like always around. So I didn't really want to go into classical music at first, because I was a rebellious teenager. I actually wanted to be kind of like Taylor Swift. I wanted to write my own songs and play the guitar, which I'm not very good at, but I do love doing. But yeah, once my mom started teaching me how to actually sing in classical technique, I fell in love with it. And it's been the joy of my life to be able to continue this legacy. And it's huge shoes to fill, but it's incredible. And I feel so grateful to be able to do it and to be able to sort of continue the legacy that my family has started.
Now, tell us about your degrees. Are you actually majoring in music? Tell us about your connection to Rice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I went to Rice University for my undergrad degree, and I graduated this past year in 2020. And I actually just started my master's degree, also in music, vocal performance for both of the degrees. But I am leaving my master's degree a year early to go join the Houston Opera Studio. So I'm actually not finishing this degree, which is funny because my mom did almost the exact same thing when she was my age. She did 1 year at Loyola for her master's and then left to go to the Houston Opera Studio. So it's a little eerie, but it's super cool.
When an offer comes up, you can't pass it up, right?
Not going to pass that up.
Well, now we've got something very special. Here is thanks to Emily, an exclusive look at Emily and her mom, soprano Phyllis Treigle, performing an evening prayer from the opera Hansel and Gretel within their very own music room. Emily, so beautiful. So you just decided to kind of turn on your iPhone and record? Tell us about that. It's gorgeous.
Yeah. At the very beginning of quarantine, my mom and I were looking for something to do. And so we just decided to play around and see what duets we could sort of sight read and have fun with. And let me tell you, it is so, so incredible to be able to share music like that with my mom. It's something that I treasure so, so much. And so I'm just so happy that we have the technology these days that I can have that video forever.
Incredible. Thank you so much. And we're going to move on to Alan with some real good news from theater standpoint.
Well, for some people who want to be part of theater, we've got really good news. Last week we mentioned Tulane Summer Lyric Theater. They're essentially going to be having 3 shows, as we mentioned. Songs for a New World by Jason Robert Brown. It's a great night for singing Jesus Christ Superstar. But if you want to be part of the show, you need to audition. And because of COVID, auditioning is really super easy from your own homes. But you need to reserve a slot first. Email Michael McKelvey at Tulane right now. You just have 1 day to get it done by tomorrow. Once you get all of that done, the deadline will be May 1st for you to get in an audition of between 16 and 32 bars, around 30 to 45 seconds in length of songs from contemporary composers like Jason Robert Brown, Pasek and Paul, or Goldrich and Heisler for Songs for a New World. Then for It's a Grand Night for Singing, they're asking for some of the more golden age of Broadway songs, things by the great American songbook composers like Cole Porter or Rodgers and Hammerstein, Rodgers and Hart, Frank Lesser, those sort of people. And then for Jesus Christ Superstar, they're asking for anybody who's auditioning to provide them a rock sample. Again, 30 to 45 songs. And they may also be able to have an opening for children. They're not sure because of the COVID restrictions whether or not they'll be able to have children, but if you have a child who wants to perform, check out Michael McKelvey, email him, let him know that you have a child. They may be able to actually appear on stage in a virtual fashion, so they will be part of the production one way or the other, either in person or virtually. Children will be part of it. Speaking of children, Carol Eshelman, who's been part of our theater scene for a long time, has opened up her new open call theater company. And this is going to be for children of, let's say, older ages, not necessarily, of the toddler age, but for older. They're going to be children who will be actually taking part in the auditions for her company from July 19th through the 20th. And they're going to have auditions for these productions that they'll be doing in the future into the fall. And last but not least, let's make sure everybody knows that Anthony Bean will be having his summer camp, an intensive 6-week summer camp for kids, 862-PLAY for all the details there. Check that out. And Peggy, just to wrap things up, you know, when Lin-Manuel Miranda won his first Tony Award for Best Musical in the Heights, that was in 2008, he was starring opposite Mandy Gonzalez, who is now featured in his second Best Musical Award for Tony. That would be, of course, Hamilton. She plays Angelica Schuyler. Mandy also won a special award as Best Replacement back in 2010 for playing Elphaba in Wicked. She's got a great belting voice, so she's among the best of them. She's going to be Seth Rudetsky's guest this Sunday afternoon. And yes, unfortunately, the repeat broadcast will be up against the Academy Awards broadcast, so I recommend everybody check out the 2 p.m. broadcast and not have to try to decide between Mandy or Oscar. That'll be Sunday.
Okay, thank you so much. And of course, that is the 25th, April the 25th. And now it's time for our picks of the week. Poppy.
But if you can't wait for the Jazz Fest festing to begin, you can start tonight, because April 22nd through May the 2nd, Copeland's To Go has an incredible offer, Festin for 2, crawfish bread, crab beignets. You can add on a 20-ounce strawberry lemonade daiquiri. It's just $40, with 19% of the proceeds benefiting the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival Music Relief Fund for those musicians.
Talk about a worthy cause, and I can't wait until October for that Jazz Fest. Thank you. Emily, how can we learn more about you and keep up with you? Don't you have a website?
Yes, I do. So if you want to keep up with me and see what I'm doing over the next few months, years, whatever, go to emilytreiglemezzo.com, and I keep updating that as many times as I can with all the news and info.
It is so great to have you on. Thank you, dear, very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And Alan.
Peggy, I'm so proud to have been able to listen into a broadcast of something called Shadowland. This is the first of 10 parts of a series being put on by the Public Theater, and it stars Lance Nichols and several other people who either are New Orleanians or were New Orleanians, featuring original music by Delfio Marsalis. This was written by Erica Dickerson Dispenza. It tells the story of the struggles of a mother and daughter up to and during the Katrina disaster. I really recommend you check this out. There is a minimum donation of $10 to the public, but it's wonderful. And I have to tell you, I can't wait for the other 9. And Peggy, I'll see you at the theater.
Okay, thank you, Alan. And now my picks, the Electric Yacht Orchestra. And by the way, they're terrific. I saw a Gershwin tribute last week. They're incredible. They will be presenting Peter Peter and the Wolf, with guest Anne Sharbrek on the flute. That's Saturday at noon at the wonderful Broadside. That's a great new venue, 600 North Broad. It's outdoors. Very, very delightful. Jam Nola, the New Orleans culture-themed gallery, has some new installations and is having its own festival, including food. Food vendors this weekend will be at the Press Street Station, and we should remind you that Jam Nola is in the Noka complex, so that's that Press Street Station, which has also been used as a restaurant. There will also be an art market, too. The market and the food fest is free to attend, but do RSVP at jamnola.com. But you can also get tickets for Jam Nola at the site, too, and there are 2 new temporary installations, so check that out. Congregation Gates of Prayer has a day of New Orleans music on Sunday by ticket, but free to browse the arts market, and go to gatesfest.org for tickets. And Patrice McMurray, one of our favorite jewelry artists, is going to be there. And they are located at 4000 West Esplanade. And I'm so thrilled that Patrice is going to be out and about. She's usually at the Jazz Fest, and she is going to have a booth, so check that out. Film Alasaw presents his annual Oscar party at the Britannia Theater uptown, and Oscar night. And this Sunday, look who's there. Sunday evening, our very own Alfred Richard will be there for the hoopla. Go to Britannia.com for info. And he looks great. I love with the Oscar, right? And that the doors open at 6 p.m. and then, of course, the show begins at 7. And before we leave, just back to Emily for a moment. Emily, when you were growing up, did you go to the New Orleans Opera? Did you see operas in New Orleans, or how did you get in contact with opera on your own?
Of course I did. I can't possibly have escaped New Orleans Opera without, having my mom being the opera singer in the house. Of course I did. New Orleans Opera is like the most important thing to me, so I hope one day to sing there.
I was going to say that would be so wonderful for you to have your debut. I know it's early in your career, but do you have a favorite role yet, or is there a role that you aspire to?
Right now, I think the role that I would like to do the most is Sesto in La Clemenza di Tito, because I sing all of his arias. So that's a role that I would love to do right now. I don't know about long term, because my voice is still growing, but we'll see.
Well, good luck on the 9th. What are you singing on the May 9th?
It's funny, we actually talked so much about Orpheus and Eurydice. I am actually singing an aria from Orfeo ed Euridice called Addio ai miei sospiri by Gluck. So I'm so excited. All
right. Well, wonderful. And we'll be praying to Saint Cecilia, the patron saint of music, for you, and wishing you very good luck there on May the 9th. Thank you all. And thank you all very much for watching. Goodbye.
Rouse's is proud of the creativity and the unparalleled entertainment in New Orleans, and honored to highlight it with their sponsorship of Steppin Out on WYES.